Welcome to episode 15. I'm Luke.
And I am George.
And today we welcome the renowned NFT collector known as Whaleshark. This was an epic conversation where we hear about Whaleshark's story, whale token, and take a deep dive into the vision behind it. We also cover many other topics, including community impacts of the socialization of collections. There's a mouthful. Why scarce digital art is the medium for this generation of collectors, and much more. At the end, we read out the winners of Moon Gerbil and announce the next NonFunGerbil. We hope you enjoy the conversation as much as us.
Welcome to the NonFunGerbils podcast, the show about digitally scarce gerbils, non-fungible assets, and the growing decentralized economy. Great. Well, we welcome Whaleshark to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on today.
As everyone knows, Luke and I have been in the space a while. And as we saw some of the greatest NFTs in the space selling, there was a name that cropped up again and again. I initially, my thinking was, wow, someone's really fallen down the rabbit hole here and seems to really love this stuff. But then when everything began to come out and whale as a social currency began to be released and formed, there was method in the madness, and it's been incredible to see what was clearly a plan from some way back begin to materialize. But before we dive deep into what Whale is, give us a bit about your background and how you've ended up becoming such a major part of the NFT space.
Sure thing, guys. And once again, thank you for the kind introduction. I have been a long-term fan of NonFunGerbils. Have been listening to you guys since November of last year, and it's really truly an honor to be on the podcast today. So I'm actually, just a little bit about myself, I'm actually British. So I'm from the UK. But as you can tell from my accent, the only thing British about me is my passport. Grew up the majority of my time in the United States. And professionally speaking, was involved in the brand and management consulting industry for about 15 years before actually finding blockchain as a point of interest. For me, my journey with blockchain started in 2012. It was the first time I picked up some Bitcoin, got totally enamored by the concept of decentralized currency, was actually taking, I think, about 50% of my paycheck then, which really, it's quite a sizable amount, and just buying Bitcoin every single month, all the way to 2015. Wow. It took a lot of faith. I think I was buying all the way down from 600 all the way down to 200 and just continuing to do it. But then there came a point in 2015 where, I think it was the first time that the Bitcoin network really got congested. Took me, I think, a day to transfer Bitcoin from one account to the other. And that narrative of, Bitcoin as digital money, it really wasn't performing what it needed to. It was at that point in time that, a lot of people that I had been conversing with had told me, why don't you look at the technological application of blockchain rather than its application as a currency. And, I just went down the rabbit hole, found out about Ethereum. And, I think it was towards the end of 2015, just decided, hey, this looks like where it's going to be. And then took all my Bitcoin that I'd accumulated the last 4 years and converted it into F. I think everyone knows what happened from 2015 to 2017. And I count myself as extremely lucky, right? It did take a lot of balls to do that at that point in time, but just decided to go ahead and do it. Then after that, basically last year in June, I had been looking around some of the Ethereum Reddits, saw that Chris Clay had moved across from Magic the Gathering Arena to become the game director over at Gods Unchained. And, having been in business for quite a bit, it really drives home a point for me when I see significant players in the space move into blockchain projects. And for me, that was my first real interaction with NFTs by buying GU cards. Ended up spending about 200,000 US dollars on God Unchained cards during that time. One day was scanning through OpenSea, saw that super rare. Super rare was on the ranking list, and I just fell down the rabbit hole since then. It's been digital art, digital property or digital land. I think I bought a couple of digital album covers, avatars. There's so many great projects cropping up in the space. And, I think a lot of people ask me, did you have this intention to create Whale when you first started collecting? Not at all. Honestly, I was just collecting things that I liked, that I enjoyed, because I used to be a trading card game fanatic. So GU was right up my alley. Always wanted to collect art. And then all of a sudden I have this opportunity to collect art anonymously. So I did that. And it was really only in January of this year where I really started thinking, how can I share my journey as a collector with the NFT community? So long story, but I think it's, I think all of the dots connected, and this is where I am today.
Oh, very interesting. I mean, what a story as well. So how did the concept of Whale come about as a social currency?
So I think that collecting is a very solitary endeavor. It can get very lonely sometimes, right? Because basically as a collector, what you're doing is you're trying to buy and acquire the most valuable pieces of whether that's artwork or collectibles in the space. And, it just sits in my OpenSea account. And there's no way to share that joy of collecting. What I wanted to do, and, unlike ICOs or initial coin offerings, what I wanted to do was find a way on how I could share my journey as a collector, build a community that had the same interests and had the same focus as I did. So I think the original purpose of Whale was just to share that journey and to bring more people aboard, find a way how I can allow more people to own NFTs without having to have that sizable bank account. And it just evolved from there. I mean, today, if you look at the Whale community, we're about 1,100 Discord users strong after only 2 weeks. I think we're going to get some significant traction over the next few weeks as we extend our reach. And the thing that I love the most about it is that entire community is just so positive and so enthusiastic about everything. So yeah, it stemmed from my want and from my need as a person to share the collection that I had.
That's that's a really interesting way of coming at it. It's essentially one of the elements that's potentially slightly missing from this space. Could be this sense of sort of shared signaling. You're right in the sense that some of these assets can get put in a wallet and they stay there, and it's difficult to share them. I suppose in the physical world, you can have friends over to your house and look at the art, and so by creating the vault, you essentially create a art gallery which everyone has a stake in to a degree, and everyone becomes interested in what's being bought and why, and everyone has an opinion. So that's effectively the way in which you share your journey. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the other way that I try to get, whether it's the art or whether it's the collectibles out there, is within the vault, there's also a high percentage of digital property, digital real estate, crypto voxels, sandbox. And, as NFTs become more interoperable with all these platforms, the ability to build a gallery, to build massive galleries actually, exists where, you can not only share that feeling of collection with the community, but also with everyone else who's in the blockchain space. In addition to that, I think the way that I try to, and I will involve the community even in a larger manner later on, is some of the decision making in terms of what exactly goes into the vault, what items are going to appreciate in value later on. As a single collector, you can't have in-depth knowledge over every single project in the NFT space. I think there's a couple new ones that happen like every single week, right? But imagine what you can do when you all come together and hey, you have experts in CryptoKitties, you have experts in punks, you have experts in avatars. That collective knowledge will allow someone to be able to use a mass pool of capital to do some real damage in the space, right? One of the other reasons why I actually started Whale was also to create what I call a virtuous cycle. once again, the liquidity in the market is limited to, it's still small. Was there a way that you could develop a mechanism so that investment in the space could continue to flow? My original thought process behind Whale was, hey, if I was able to develop a social currency whereby it could generate some revenue, what happens if I took that revenue and I just directly reinvested it into good players within the space? So basically what you see is the dynamics of an increasing value of the vault. You see an increasing dynamic of the demand for Whale, and all of that money or all of that income generated from the sale of Whale would go back directly into supporting the space again. So I think those were the two main reasons why, Whale really came across to me as something interesting to do.
So I suppose we should, for listeners who don't know anything about Whale, we should give a sort of overview of how it works.
Absolutely. So Whale is really the first social currency that is backed by NFTs. We spoke extensively about the vault, and really that vault is a collection of the most precious and some of the most rare NFTs in the entire space. Essentially, once again, when we first started this project, there was an initial white paper that spoke about token issuance, tokenomics, and it's been a very fluid project, right? Originally, we were going to market make directly. However, based on the feedback that we received from the community, we figured that, hey, why don't we get even more people involved by issuing it as rewards to the community for free, rather than trying to make money from it. I think it was the best idea ever, because after that, the next day after the announcement, our Discord server increased by double. Everyone feels that it's a very fair way to participate in this project, and it helps the little guy. So it's a social currency that is backed by the most precious NFTs in NFT land. And in addition to that, the tokenomics are that there's only ever going to be 10 million Whale. We partnered with Roll. And then after that, we have about 5 million Whale that has been bookmarked and stamped to be allocated to the community over the next 5 to 10 years.
Amazing. Yeah, I can see how that would definitely get people on side and interested in what's going on. I from our own perspective, I often get pinged on the Discord and I'm furiously pressing emojis to try and get more Whale. You've got to the very heart of the crypto space, which is money as a motivator. But it's also so nice to have what I consider to be the most enjoyable and interesting part of the crypto space, which is the NFT world, to have that as the backing of this social currency. I think kind of sort of slightly sort of switches the focus away from price, although that will always be there, and more towards what wonderful things are going in the vault, which is interesting. Talk to us a bit about how the vault is connected to the currency.
So once again, if you look at social currencies today, but even if you look at cryptocurrencies, there's really no way to provide a quantifiable valuation on what the price of a cryptocurrency, what the price of a social currency, or even what the price of a fiat currency should actually be, right? The reason the Whale is actually an endeavor to try and use NFT collectibles as a return to the gold standard. So essentially, once again, I think a social currency is based off of several dimensions of value. The vault is only one piece of that, but it provides a base value, right? It should be a base value where that currency theoretically should never drop below. So the way that we tie the value of the vault to Whale is that I partnered with NonFunGerbil.com. The team over there has been wonderful in pushing forward the analytics of the space, and I was amazed with their NFT report that they released at the beginning of this year. We got started to talking. They said, hey, this is something that we're working on in terms of how can we accurately value NFTs. And we just found an immediate application to Whale and in terms of how we should be using it there. So basically what happens is that every single month, NonFunGerbil.com will actually run their valuation algorithm on all of the assets within the vault. and provide that transparent report to the community. I myself have no sway or no influence on that process whatsoever. They have full autonomy to release what they think is right. And what we found with the initial launch of the first valuation report was that instead of me saying, hey, this shouldn't be valued at X, it should be valued at Y, you had people from the community who are in these projects taking that constructive criticism to them directly. So, I think if we were only to look at one dimension of value, I think they play an extremely important role in providing a reference point for people who are interested in purchasing Whale.
Do you get the sense that through that system that the community will then add into that the kind of the future value of the vault? Because obviously, that seems to me to be where this particular space is so interesting, because there are other dynamics at play with NFTs in terms of scarcity and when they were made and the story behind them. You can have some projects that are quite slow to begin with, but then something happens and it goes big, and that's it has a story attached. Do you imagine that that's how the community will view the vault?
I think every single community has, because they're plugging into these projects day in and day out. It's kind of like following a certain stock, right? So I think they have that inherent or natural feel in terms of, based on the market today, how much should this actually be worth? In all transparency, right now, NonFunGerbil.com is using historical past data to analyze what the price should be. In order for NFTs to truly become, of commercial value, I think that someone in the space really needs to develop a very comprehensive algorithm that not only takes into account historical data, it also takes into account current market availability, and also on a third level, also takes into account price prediction. So in that sort of a manner, you're taking into account the past, the present, and the future. And someone really needs to break down that door. And I think this partnership between Whale and NonFunGerbil.com will actually push the space towards that, so that we can have accurate valuation of NFTs across all projects within the space.
There could be a very interesting feedback loop here, couldn't there, whereby, if things get selected to go into the vault, then it becomes a bit of a signifier as to the standing of that project in the space. That would be a very interesting feedback loop to view happen, obviously, because then people would be very interested in getting in the vault.
I think again the vault is, people ask me why I invest in certain projects, right? I mean, the vault is supposed to hold the creme de la creme of all of the best NFTs within the space. I missed the boat on a couple of them. I'll be honest here, man. I missed the boat on CryptoKitties. I missed the boat on Punks. I might have even missed the boat on DCL. There are a couple I missed the boat on. But then whenever I do look at what project should be brought into the space, I'm mainly interested in a couple of things. I mean, number one, can I draw a collectible parallel from one project to something in real life, right? If I can't, then there's no way for me to estimate whether or not it'll be collectible or not. The second thing that I do is I take a look at the quality of the team and what I think is the longevity of a project. I mean, there are so many NFT games out there. Why did I go and pick Gods Unchained? It's because I could draw that direct parallel from Gods Unchained to Magic the Gathering, where you have Black Lotuses that are selling for 120 grand a piece, right? And continue, and once again, I think they're going through some hard times right now, but continue to escalate in value. And then after, the third thing is, based on the current values today, am I in early enough to see a large price appreciation in the future? And, I know we have people in the community, we have experts in the community that, point out a lot of my blind spots. We actually developed what we call vault experts that are going to be nominated based on 5 experts from each community or each project that will help guide me in terms of making decisions on these larger projects that I missed out on.
Okay, so is that a way of, do you bring them together and consult and specifically put forward a sort of a strategy for what to buy next? And do you make that decision together?
Correct. So we're currently at 2 places. So the current stage, and after that, what I envision in the future. In the current stage at the moment, just taking feedback from the community and saying, hey, hey, Whaleshark, the vault is missing NFTs from these 3, 4, 5 projects, right? So we have a channel in the Discord where people are able to voice that, hey, we're missing these out. Some of them are no-brainers. Some of them, I could run a community vote, which again isn't the most elegant solution. But, at least I'm listening to the community and having them say, hey, you're missing these out. At the end of the day, I have no idea what to buy from CryptoKitties. I have no idea what to buy from Punks. I have no idea what to buy from DCL. I'm left to enabling these 5 people to be able to tell me, when the opportunity crops up, dude, you got to jump on this. And I have to listen to that advice. So that's where we are today. It's a very manual process. Where I want to get to eventually is a form of DAO governance, whereby, once again, we have some way to automate that voting process so that, I'm not the one clicking that final button all the time. But, again, what we're looking at here is there are several ways that DAO technology needs to grow in order for me to do that. The first thing is that, we're not putting just coins inside a DAO contract anymore. We're taking assets, collectibles that actually have a significant amount of value and wrapping it in a DAO contract. I need to know that it's 100% safe, right? So I think that's the first thing that I'm mostly worried about. The second thing is that the vault actually holds a lot of digital real estate. There's no point in buying digital real estate and just keeping it in the vault collecting dust. There has to be the flexibility of a DAO smart contract to be able to allow me to rent, to change builders, to change building permissions, and that flexibility isn't there yet. But again, I mean, when we were launching this project, once those conditions are met, I don't care how much it costs. Will be one of the first ones to move into that sort of a format.
Is that because currently the vault or the collection is, I imagine, under your control, and you're looking to sort of move that into a more sort of decentralized control structure?
That is correct. It's a natural progression of how things have to go.
Sure.
Right. One of the elements of why we all enjoy using blockchain is because it's trustless. And while I'm very flattered and I've tried to do everything I can do to allow the community to trust in me, which also included revealing my identity and bank accounts and all of those to about 10 outstanding community members who I trust, it's not the most elegant solution. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is a trustless system whereby people don't have to worry about, is Whaleshark going to jack 3 NFTs from the vault? Or, what happens if Whaleshark steps on the road and gets hit by a car tomorrow? I think these are all problems that a DAO would solve instantly.
And in terms of, is there a plan to sell assets from the vault should a project get particularly hot? Or is in like portfolio management, or is it as like a buy and hold strategy as it's forms the base of this currency? So
I'm not a trader, right? I think some of the most epic traders in NFT land, like Pranksy and the guys like that, I've never been a trader. I've always been a long-term investor. Bitcoin could have been 600, could have gone down to 200, could have gone to 1,000, could have gone to 20,000. I think timing the market is not a skill set that I have. So at the end of the day, there is going to be an ability for people to buy assets from the vault. However, playing into the tokenomics of the vault, they can only purchase those NFTs with Whale. Today, right now, at the moment, what we've done is we've put the 3 most expensive NFTs from Gods Unchained on the Roll marketplace. They're available for Whale. And how does that play into the entire tokenomics? Again, it creates a feedback loop or a virtuous cycle. People need to use their F to buy Whale in order to buy things from the vault, right? The vault has no liquidity issues. It has no leverage issues. So really, there's no urgent need in the short term, mid-term, or long term to sell these assets from the vault. And I wish, I hope that the things that we did pick will continue to escalate in value, like artwork, right? I might not sell it. I might not have sold it yesterday. I might not sell it tomorrow, but I'm very sure that 20 years down the road, it's still going to hold value. So yes, they are going to be available for sale, but only in Whale.
Very interesting. One of the things I love about this space is the innovation that takes place and its ability to surprise you from new things popping up around the corner all the time. And when Whale was announced, my thinking was, well, how is this going to impact the NFT community? And in a way, a whale is representative of a big player in the space that can easily make a splash and can move the market in traditional markets. And there's a certain risk to having a player with a very large percentage of all the very expensive items. And in a way, this socializes that risk. And so it's good for the market because it's giving everyone a piece of that. And because you're giving it out for free and giving up a sort of a percentage of your ownership of that, this virtuous cycle is then going to build upon that. So in a way, everyone wins.
Luke, you got it straight on. You got it straight on. I don't think every single person is lucky enough, and I've been very lucky and fortunate to be in the position that I am in today. I was talking to Jim McNellis from NFT42 or Avastars, and when we were discussing through whether to do this or not, his main thing was not everybody is going to be able to do this, or I think only maybe a handful of whales would be able to do this. I'm very, I don't know if that's the correct word, but I'm very righteous. So I don't enjoy seeing people that invest into the crypto space and buy Bitcoin one day at 20,000, and then just because some whales with a more evil intent to hit their shorts or whatever decide to dump on the market, right? Is it possible to build a social currency for NFT land that can retain value so that all these people that want to get in don't need to worry about going broke the next day, right? I think there was a time, remember when, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, F was 270, 280, everyone was on a high, and then all of a sudden it dipped all the way to like 120, right?
Yeah.
Artists, projects, collectors, they lost half of their net worth in 3 days. That's not healthy. It's healthy for some whales that are playing the trading charts, but it's not healthy if you're trying to build a community that wants to create, right? So I think Whale was that was really the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And at that point in time, I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm just hoping that Whale can eventually provide that stability for NFT land where people can say, I can hold Whale, I can always buy in Whale, and I don't need to worry about going broke the next day.
Wouldn't it be fascinating if Whale became a stable coin and, much more stable than Ethereum and, likened to a DAI in the space? That would be interesting.
Look, that would absolutely be the vision, right? Till today, when you look at fiat, what really is fiat based off of? It's based on speculation of an economy that is going to grow, is going to shrink. It's based on a lot of different things, right? But there's no real asset with hard value that is backing the valuation of cryptocurrency, of anything. I think I brought it up. The two things that I take issues with are, number one, there's no assets to back many of the cryptocurrencies or fiat currencies today. And the second thing is that with fiat currencies, we're seeing the issue in the States as well as all other places in the world, where monetary policy is just driving things crazy, right? We might not feel it today, but we're definitely going to feel it tomorrow. And people with not such a strong economic background don't realize that, right? I think it's unfortunate.
There's also a fairly interesting idea that can be taken out of the legacy world, in the sense that a lot of the people who are able to work the market to their advantage in the good times and the bad, you very often find go to the art market to spend this money and reinvest it into things. And money is to some degree a shared myth. In terms of how it gets given value and you can buy things with it, but also the wonderful thing about art is that it's very subjective, but there's many different people who want it for many different reasons, and so you could end up in a situation where actually art and the NFT space in years to come actually becomes a place where that insane volatility of the currency markets, finds a home. And if you can, produce a group of assets that can find that stability. In the end, I think artists could win.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but if I look at all of the applications of NFT technology in the space, I honestly think that crypto art, or I prefer rare digital art, is probably the most mature use case of them all, because it answers an immediate question, right? And that question is, how do I commercialize digital art, right? How do I commercial digital art like traditional art? The issue why digital art has never been able to be commercialized is they couldn't prove provenance, and you couldn't prove scarcity. Hey guys, look, NFT technology just dropped, and now you can prove both of those things. For me, the question is, hey, why isn't everybody on this already, right? In addition to that, I mean, if you look at the art world today, I mean, all auction houses are going to tell you that millennials aren't buying traditional art. They don't have the same physical space to hang up a 32-inch painting or a 48-inch painting, right? Digital art is amazing because, as I've been talking a lot about it to my friends as well, I got 3 TVs in the house and 4 digital photo frames. They're all rotating to crypto art. I'm holding up my cell phone right now over here. I got digital art from Murat Pak on it right now, right? I can carry my art wherever I want to go. I can show people my art. I can share my art, and I don't need to have a mansion, or I don't need to be Mr. Richie Rich to be able to share that with all my friends.
The joy of being able to carry your warehouse of art everywhere you go.
Absolutely, and I can carry my app. So in my house, actually, I have 2 TVs that are rotating through art. I have 1 photo frame that is rotating through Avastars. And then after that, I have another 2 digital photo frames that are rotating through other projects. And whenever anyone comes across, they take a look at it and say, wow, that's really cool. What is that? Just putting my phone down on the table sometimes and people see that interesting background that I have, which is a digital art piece, it starts to spark that conversation. And people are just amazed with how much they didn't know about digital art.
It's also such a wonderfully rich medium. I guess, one of the things that you can see happening now, indeed just in the InfinFT release with the 3D model, and with the GIF, I think Hackatao has produced some really extraordinary work with movement, and that is another driver for me for more people to come into the space, because when you can add the digital scarcity to it and yet retain the joys of what digital media can do, it actually produces potentially a much richer canvas on which people can create.
Absolutely. I mean, so Giant Swan and Hackatao are both very good friends of mine. One of the best things about being in this space is meeting new people. And Jim and Nate, who launched InfinFT, I mean, they're doing some amazing, innovative stuff in the space. Talking to your point, though, I mean, when we saw Nifty Gateway rebrand and re-enter into the space, and not only bringing in outside artists into NFT land, but also taking artists who are from NFT land out into the mass market, I think those bridges will only continue to grow. Talking to 2 of the artists that you brought up just now, so a 3D model, I believe it should be Giant Swan. And then after that, Hackatao, once again, he's a blue chip staple. They are a blue chip staple. Was actually just speaking to them before this podcast.
Well, they had a successul sale last night.
Dude, it sold out, right? I think anything
within seconds.
Did you manage to get one, or
Luke did?
Yeah.
Luke, congratulations. Anything that Nifty Gateway puts on their platform, it sells out, because there are these collectors who are not only existing whales in NFT land, but it extends into people who have been in crypto, right? The point that I can't wait to reach into is, when does digital art move not only from NFT land, not only to the crypto space, but also to the mass market? And, I can't wait to see Sotheby's or some of these other great auction houses start to say, wow, this is an opportunity where provenance and scarcity has finally been solved with, and we should bring digital art into the world of auctioning.
A thing I didn't expect from Nifty Gateway, because we also participated in the Momo Wang sale, was the experience that you get from getting there, waiting there, and then bidding on these things. It felt like an ICO almost. It's the same sort of everyone's waiting. Okay, it's live. Go. Try and did you get one or not? And you're waiting, and then even more so than the ICOs, like the valuations of these drops is rocketing up immediately. Like the secondary sales, extraordinary.
I think the brilliant thing about art or any collectible is if you don't have any short-term, mid-term, or long-term credit issues or liquidity issues, really what it's valued at or how much it's worth, it really depends on a collector, right? So I think, once again, why is art a better gold standard than gold was? Gold is homogeneous, right? You can buy and you can sell at any time. The price, it can still be manipulated. It's for lack of a better word, it's a commodity. Art, if you don't have a need for liquidity, if you're not leveraged, you can wait it out. You can wait it out all the way until you find that right buyer with the right price. And I think just looking at the traditional art world, looking at the traditional collector space, some people value collectibles over their money or over their wealth because it means so much more. Nifty Gateway, I mean, they've done an amazing job. I remember missing out on the boom boxes. So I was going to buy that. I can't remember what the color was, but I was going to buy the highest priced boombox in their first launch. Lost, I think, to Tyler Winklevoss by like 1 minute. So I can totally feel you. I totally understand what you're saying, where you're coming from.
I love that they're in competition with everyone else for essentially what's their platform.
Yeah,
that's very exciting. I'd love to get your sense of how important the metaverses are, the virtual worlds, things like crypto voxels, because it's to your point that art is, digital art, crypto art is the sort of the key feature here currently. It's amazing to watch art immediately populate these places. How do you, and obviously now there's a very social element to it as well. Like I've mentioned on the podcast before how interesting it was to view an artist previously on OpenSea, like I think it was a lot of money I was looking at, and then to go to the a gallery in CryptoVoxels and get a completely different sense of the art and actually become far more interested in the art. That's incredibly powerful. But also, with these whip meetups, which again we had one last night, which was great. Give us a sense of how you think metaverses are going to play a role in the future, and how Whale could participate in that.
I think they're essential. I am the largest holder of both CryptoVoxels as well as the largest holder of Sandbox. Putting my money where my mouth is. The reason why is, again, I think we all know that CryptoVoxels has pretty much become the de facto outlet for artists within NFT land to be able to put their artwork in a more physical or VR setting, right? It's a totally different experience, right? From looking at artwork on a page where I have thumbnails and going into a CV gallery where the art is not only hanging on the walls, but the art is the entire architecture of the place itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but people like there are many more, but people like A Lot of Money, people like Crypto Motors, people like Devil. They build these amazing structures that it's not only the artwork that amazes the people. It's also how the architecture and the beauty of the entire space is being built. So I think it's going to be essential. All right. Right now, I mean, guys, if we look like maybe 4 months ago, how often were you taking a Zoom meeting? Not very often, right? I think there's going to be a natural progression. So what we're going to see is, we used to have face-to-face, and I'm a traditional guy. I love face-to-face. I love giving a handshake, but more like an elbow bump these days. But in the lack of that, now we have to do Zoom, right? The issue with Zoom is, we can see each other's faces, but again, it's still not extremely natural, right? I think there is going to be a third progression to a point where when virtual reality headsets are able to do hand tracking and body tracking correctly at not a cost prohibitive level, people will start to look at these metaverses and say, hey, I want people to see my hand movements. I want people to see my natural body reaction. I want to exist. I want to have more of a presence than just a face on a screen. So I think the metaverses will play a huge role. I do think that it's an evolutionary process. We're not there yet. But, with work from home and all of this, I wouldn't be surprised to see it accelerate towards the end of this year or even next year.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. Well, our hope as well. I seem to enjoy spending more and more time in these worlds, which is only a good thing. Mm-hmm. I guess just sort of coming to the end of our conversation now. You have a really potentially very fun period of time coming up for those in Whale and yourself, whereby you have to creatively think about how to get the proceeds into the hands of the community. So get the actual token into the hands of them. We've seen some interesting things. You did a project on the Discord getting children's artwork into the feed. And then there's also airdrops and various other ideas. Tell us about, because there'll be people listening that might want to, come in and get hold of more Whale. What plans do you have to continue to hand this currency out to the market?
Absolutely. So I think this Whale as a project has moved from a economic experiment to a community experiment, if I was to encapsulate everything that's going on at the moment. I think, once again, people like Connie Digital, Skeeny, Yura Miran, Hacketao with Podmork, they really set the tone in terms of how can I spend social currencies. Where Whale has been innovating in is how can I earn social currencies. And I think that's what both of you have been seeing in the space recently. Right now, and honestly, you guys have perfect timing because I'm sitting in front of the annual plan right now, looking at what we have in store. But right now, today, what we have is we have a Whale ranking system. So basically, if people are in our Discord and are being productive members of the community, what we do every single end of the month is we distribute Whale to the top 100 active community members. So in that way, it encourages people to create a positive communicative environment. So that's the first thing that we do. I'm blessed by having a lead mod in Allegria, and he's very well connected in the space. I think we had Frankie Nines in the Discord 3 or 4 days ago, and he was doing a live stream on drawing. Coming in as a guest, that's another way that you can make some Whale. And, I encourage the people who are watching or listening to tip them in Whale as well. The third thing is, just to keep it interesting, or I like to keep people on their toes. I do enjoy the occasional airdrop.
So do we.
So I do random airdrops. And like you guys, I love seeing those emojis start to fly beneath the airdrop message. So we do that. I love community competitions, right? Whale. I'll talk about Whale Kids in a tiny bit, but we're planning to have bi-weekly Whale competitions whereby people can design memes or design emojis that will help boost the community, and I'll award Whale for that. Again, how do you create that virtuous cycle whereby you can achieve your means but also improve the community at the same time? We developed something called Whale Experts, and that's where I'm encouraging people who have expertise in certain things to accept Whale as a form of payment. Gian was our first guy, and I think he's one of the best players in Gods Unchained. He's offering one-to-one training sessions for Whale. Once again, that's still starting up, but it's getting there. If you guys love poker, would love to have you guys on our Whale Weekly Poker. We're up to 60 members now, and it's only been 2 weeks. So every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Hong Kong, we have Whale Poker where the winner wins 100 Whale. And then after that, we have 2 bounties. So one on my head and one on the winner from the previous week. And if you take me out, or if you take the previous winner out, you get an additional 50 Whale each. So we try to gamify it a tiny bit. Whale Kids stem from the fact that, I think everyone and all kids should have an ability to create. What I haven't spoken about yet is that I'm planning on Discord, and once again, this is borrowing off an idea from other people within the space, but I want to create this huge refrigerator and start to pin those artworks up there. Very much like at home, right? And what you guys have seen right now is just the first iteration of it. We're going to do some partnerships with Pixel Chain get kids using the blockchain, get kids creating and designing pixel art. I mean, that's amazing, right? Because basically what you're doing is now you're feeding the new generation with education not only on art but also on the blockchain. Whale Tank is another thing that's coming up, so very similar to Shark Tank. I'd like to release a series of videos and a series of programs where selected people can receive whale for their upcoming projects. Once again, encouraging to do that. And finally, sorry guys, I just bullet pointed you guys all the way through.
This is great. Carry on.
But the last thing that I'm going to do is the whale grants, right? I think there are many projects in the space, including NonFunGerbils, that have created. There's a reason why we enjoy being in this space, right? You guys do this for free. You guys have done this to make a better community, to educate people, to bring people on board. And, Whale Grants is just my way of giving back to those people who have done that. And at the same time, by giving back to all of you, the ability for you guys to use that to get more viewership or more listenership. Again, how do you create that virtuous cycle? It's a bad or good habit of mine. Whenever I look at doing something, how do I create a virtuous cycle?
This is exactly what we were trying to create with the NonFunGerbils in the first place, was to drive community engagement through building these community-generated NFTs and then giving them away for that community engagement. Mm-hmm. So it's been such an interesting path that it's been for us. It's been quite unexpected in the directions that it's taken us.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think we spoke earlier before the podcast, but if it wasn't for NonFunGerbils, I wouldn't have my NFT education, right? How else am I going to get educated on all of these projects, on the ins and outs of the technology that's coming through? I binge watched, I think, 4 hours on a trip into the outskirts of Seoul, sometime in February. I'm an information whore, so I love anything that will give me more information, that will give me more insights, and podcasts like NonFunGerbils, like Token Smart, like You Deserve a Drink. Being able to hear the good questions that you provide, juxtaposed to the people that is coming directly. I think it provides an invaluable education, and I recommend all 3 or 4 of those podcasts to anybody who wants to enter the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're very kind. It's hugely gratifying to hear that it's interesting to people, and we will continue to do it because it's interesting for us. We love it. It's amazing to talk to people such as yourself, and so it feels like we should draw it to a close there. But the potential movement of whale going forward and the how far it could reach across our ecosystem, I feel like you may become a regular interviewee. So I hope you'll come back to give us an update.
I would love to. I really enjoy speaking to both of you, and I do tend to, keep many things private, just for security and privacy reasons. But everyone's been so kind in the space, and once again, it's really been a dream of mine. I couldn't have imagined being on your podcast when I was listening to you guys in February, if I could put it that way.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you.
It has.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to all the wonderful things that you guys do in the space, and I look forward to connecting with you guys again soon.
Great, yeah. We'll see you then.
All the best. Thank you. So, Luke, what an interview. Great fun.
Yeah, that was brilliant. What a legend.
So, on to Moon Gerbil.
Yes, indeed. Moon Gerbil. So, we've had a few entries this time, but all of them have been pretty damn good.
Absolutely. We've got some crackers. Why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Well, let's start with Third Man Design. Moon Gerbil is minting big cheese for Hamstar Industries on the lunar surface for 3 years. Moon Gerbil cannot talk to Earth. Moon Gerbil crashed the lunar rover. A new Moon Gerbil is arriving from Earth in 2 weeks. Moon Gerbil is dying. Moon Gerbil is having doubts.
Well, it's a great take on a great film. So
have you seen it?
Thank you, Third Man Design. I have certainly seen it. It's a cracker.
I have not seen it. I need to go and see it. I was hoping to see it before we read this out, but
it's a must. I hope Third Man hasn't ruined it for you. It's very good. Right. Flowbot 44. Once a lonely gerbil was stuck in his cage. He escaped from home, walked up to a store and saw through the window a movie about monkeys in space and thought, I could go too. So he trekked 14 miles to the nearest NASA station and they were like, sure, yeah, we need a Moon Gerbil on SpaceX. I guess that's what you call getting lucky?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to frame it as well.
That's a cracker.
In fact, I thought this was just perfect because there was actually that video where someone thought they saw a rodent on the rocket as it was going up. Did you see that?
It wasn't that a floating dinosaur?
No, it was Moon Gerbil.
It was Moon Gerbil. They let him on. That lucky guy.
So, where Kitty won. The Moon Gerbil gathered all his friends for the big party. It was the Meown, the space-travelling winged cat, and the cat that couldn't spot the difference between a basketball and a football. They all wanted to go with the flow blockchain for takeoff into a new space.
It's great. That's perfect. I love how you did the meow.
Bonus points for Where Kitty for tagging flow blockchain. It's always good to get these stories out to extra people, extra eyes.
Absolutely. Tagging gets you a readout.
Tagging gets you points. Memes get you points.
Yep, points.
Doing things crazy gets you points. Doing really good stories gets you points.
Might even at some point get you whale. Interesting.
That's a thought. The images that come with this, I think, make it as well. You need to view the whole tweet in all its glory.
Well, I mean, space traveling winged cat. Need we say more?
Well, absolutely.
Great stuff. Okay, next up, we have Alan Falcon.
Alan Falcon, you really make us work for this one.
Yeah. It's been well worth putting the work in.
It has been, yes. Thank you for providing a backing track as well. We wouldn't do this for just anyone.
Roll the tape.
Okay.
Right. Are we ever going to live that one down, Luke?
I don't know. Maybe we should sell that one. Tokenize it and sell it. Let us know if you want to buy it.
That's a great idea. Yeah. You can be the owner of that. Moving on swiftly to our finalist. So, at the Flaz, you are our winner of the Moon Gerbil description competition. Here we go. Moon Gerbil is dreaming the same dream again.
Houston, the gerbil has landed. F is up 1,000%.
Beep.
It's one small step for a gerbil, a giant leap for gerbil kind. Wait, what? Houston, we have a problem.
He wakes. It's not real again. When moon! That's what you call dramatized. A full dramatic production there. Yeah, I mean, F up 1,000% here from here would be close to Moon. I mean, I'll take it.
And the classic when Moon meme, which definitely gets bonus points.
Spelt WEN, which is perfect.
Yeah.
So the Flaz has once again created a winner.
Yes, well done. I guess we're on to the next gerbil, George.
We are indeed. Next up, we have Liberty Gerbil, which, as you can imagine, at this particular juncture in our lifetimes, is an important. It'll serve as an important reminder of how important our liberty is for those of us lucky enough to live in a part of the world where that is standard. So yes, Liberty Gerbil. Get your descriptions in, and let's make another beautiful piece of artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a way, this kind of marks chronologically where we are in time at the moment with everything that's going on. So
yeah, so we had Prepper Gerbil, and then we went to the Moon, and now it's all about liberty. I'm down with that.
Great. So answers on a postcard or via Twitter, and we'll see you next time.
Indeed. Thanks, Luke. Cheers, buddy.
When there's a Ponzi, you call NG.